Hi, and welcome to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Amariah Murdoch. And if you are in your business and not working on your business, and the day to day is pulling you into the emails, the calendar, voicing, team, and all the things, then we need to chat because my main business, Infinite Exec, we come along your side as a strategic partner. And not only do we get you out of the day to day, but we help you rediscover your joy as a business owner because entrepreneurship doesn't have to suck and it doesn't have to be painful. You can have someone who looks at your business with you, takes full ownership, is proactive, and executes. So if that sounds like something of interest to you, please reach out. But today we are talking about the 4-hour workday for moms and how to build a business that fits your life with Melissa Cruz. And Melissa, how are you today?
I'm lovely. How are you doing?
I am here. I'm here.
Take it. We'll take it. Yes.
Thank you. I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about yourself first, anything that you think would, be of interest, and then we'll just kind of dive in.
Yeah, well, we're talking about work, so I'll share a little bit personal. But I am originally from New Jersey, lived in Florida for 11 years. I now call Colorado home. I have two kids. They are both born in February, 12 months apart. And so I have one that just turned 12, another that is about to turn 11. And when I'm not busy with the kids, I love doing puzzles and reading and cooking. I cook a lot.
I love that. I love that. I really wish I had the cooking thumb, so to speak. I wish that I had the like I think I don't know. I need to grow in that area. Yeah, that's an actual topic for sure because it's hard to juggle all the things, right? And okay, so let's just get straight into it because I have to ask, you talk about building a business that fits your season, fits your life. But can you talk to us about what that really means? And how can I, as a mom, identify which season I'm in right now?
So for me, I identified the season based around how old my kids were and what they needed from me as a mom. And so I had to give myself permission to start there, and be mom first and do business second. And so when I started business, it's 10 years this year. My kids were 2 and 1. And so life was a little bit crazy. I didn't have as much freedom. And so I just had to find a way to make it work. And I think at the same time, it was giving myself grace for that season because it doesn't last forever. And I think moms will understand that once our kids get a solid routine, they change. And then we start that cycle again, right? So it's like just, again, giving ourselves permission and grace that change is constant and acknowledging where we are, what is it that we want, especially with being moms first and then doing our business second and just honoring that season, like we can't conquer the world and do everything all at the same time. But I definitely don't want to miss the seasons my kids are in because we'll never get that time back. And so it's just acknowledging with my kids, how old are they? Where are they in life? What do they need from me? And as they've gotten older, they need a little bit less and less, but I'm able to show up in a different way. And so I'm loving this new season that we're in with my kids.
Yeah, I think you actually bring up a really, really good point, and it's just obvious, which is how old are your kids? And that will help you understand which stage of life you're in, which also explains why it might be harder in certain stages than it is in others, right? Depending on, like you said, how much they need you and how independent they can be. So, going back to that idea of building a business around your life, like you are building the life that you want for yourself. Can you afford to do that even if you literally can't afford to do that? That's what my question is. Do we have to have all the perfect conditions to be able to build that life? Or how do we get there? How does that work?
I think it goes back to giving ourselves grace. I turned 40 last year. And so if I'm going to be honest and vulnerable, as I was leading up to turning 40, I was not necessarily happy with where I was. I thought that when I was younger, I thought that I'd be in a whole different place at 40. And so I gave myself a little bit of time to kind of like be in that, feel that, be in that moment. And then I had to step out of that and just recognize what have I been able to do. I wanted to own a business since I was a kid. I was not the girl that dreamed of this big wedding and I had this dress and all these things. Like I wanted my own thing. Especially being with a Hispanic woman, I was looked at as being a certain thing, and I was only going to be a certain thing within my life and have so many kids at such a young age. And I was like, not me. Like, I'm not, like, I don't want to be a part of that statistic. And I wanted to build something crazy, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And so It's taken a little bit longer and it's a little bit harder when you go that route. Like I didn't have anybody for me that was in business that could show me kind of the way, but I knew what I wanted and I wanted it for a very long time. And I know that this is a marathon and I am a woman of faith and I believe that there was purpose put on my heart from God. And I trust in his timing, and so I just follow my intuition. I follow what my dream is. And I look for those doors that open and the ones that close from God, and I follow those things. And I try not to give myself so much pressure about where I should be at a certain age or whatever. Like it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Just keep going, have your deep rooted why of why you're doing this. Who is it for? What legacy do you want to leave behind? And then trust that process.
No, I love that. And I definitely resonate with that. When I was 6, I knew I wanted to have my own business. I was crying in the middle of the night. My mom came into the room and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I want my own business." And so it resonates, as well as being a woman of color and not having, beating other statistics and not having someone who could say, "Hey, you could totally do this. And this is how it looks and this is how it works." Yeah. And, I think the other thing, like you were saying, just looking at the doors that open, noticing what closes, all of that definitely resonate with that. And I think that something that stood out to me, usually we think about our why. And even you mentioned remembering our why. But I think another thing that we need to remember is our who. And that should also be a part of our why, right? Who is this for? Like, who are our services helping? But also, who are we doing this for? We're doing it for our kids, usually as moms. We're doing it for our family. We're doing it for ourselves. And that could be just as valid
Yeah.
as or why, because most of the time we put ourselves last, right? Most of the time we pour out for everybody else,
Yeah.
but it's very rare that people are pouring back into us unless we're very intentional. And even then, you can't force someone to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to transition from real estate to coaching women, entrepreneurs? And what do you usually have to say about, moms who are exhausted and trying to get by in business?
So I started real estate in Florida in 2016. My middle name should be Overachiever. I did a lot in Florida with trying to like make it work and be all the things, successful in real estate. It was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be when I got into it. So it did take me a little bit of time. I lost my train of thought. That is so funny. That happened
No,
to me.
all good. No, you're good. So,
Love
how'd you
real
go
estate coaching.
from, yes, yeah.
Mom brain, don't worry about it. So I did real estate since 2016, and right before COVID happened, I hired my first business coach. And then when the world, shut down, my coach had come to me and said, "Hey, I am coaching 2 other women, and every single time I coach with you all, you guys are all telling me the same thing. Are you open to group coaching? And then it'll be a little bit cheaper, also." And we were like, "Yeah, of course, because I love connecting with other women and like, I don't want to feel like I'm alone in what I'm doing." And we were all feeling that way. And it was in the course of that year that my coach said, "You really should be doing what I'm doing." And I'm like, "Really? You think so?" And then we started like, talking about it, whatever. And she brought me on. She introduced me to the company I worked for real estate coaching solely for almost the last 5 years. And they brought me on full time by 2021. And so I started doing real estate coaching, as well as still selling real estate. And then last year, when I was having the meltdown because I was turning 40, I realized where I was, where I wanted to be, and I felt like I was going through what I was going through because there was misalignment. And I can be a people pleaser. I can be loyal to a default. And so, meaning that I can stay in places longer than I probably should be, because I love the people I work with. I love the mission that they're on. But at the end of the day, I just felt like I am really digging where I'm at and I'm changing as a woman. And I had other women coming to me in other industries, watching my videos and saying, "I know you're talking about agents, but you're really helping me too at the same time." And so I just wanted to open and branch out to help more women, like again, like I started this not knowing anything about business, doing everything the hard way. And if I can help other women coming behind me curve their success a few years, even months, like that's the goal, right? It's not to keep all the secrets and keep everything within me. I want other women to have it. I want them to, be fulfilled in their life. And so I just wanted to make that change.
No, I love that. So, one thing that you were talking about, it's possible. Is it still possible to have a meltdown as you get older? Do we ever figure it all out? And then we just look back and go, "Oh, I got it."
And I think it's really interesting because like when with my training that I did to be a coach, like I love to learn and I'm always trying to improve my craft. In doing the training to be like just for coaching, I became a better coach, but I felt like I became a better parent at the same time. And it has allowed me to be honest with my kids. When I was a child, I looked at adults thinking, wow, I can't wait to have it all figured out. I can't wait to like be so sure of myself and like all the things, and now I'm here and I was like, oh, that's not the case. Like it was a bunch of lies. Nobody warned us that adulthood is not as fun as they made it seem. And so it's really important for me to show my kids that I'm trying. I don't always win. I sometimes fall and I don't get the things that I go out for, like sometimes I don't get chosen as the coach. Sometimes I don't get booked for that speaking gig, sometimes I don't win. And so it's really important for me to share that with my kids because I am not perfect. I've never been this age before. And so I'm figuring out just like y'all, I just seem to be ahead of older than you, but we never really fully kind of figure it out. And I think that's the joy in life, and in what we get to do. So it's important for me, for my kids to understand that and know that and see that whether I win or lose, you still see me get back up and try it again.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It reminds me of something I did a couple years ago. I entered into my first pageant. And when I was in that pageant, I won first runner up. So I got second place. And it was like a funeral. Like it was the worst day ever. I was mourning. Like it was so dramatic. And I was like, why am I taking this so personally? And then I realized it was because my mindset was runner up. I'm
Hmm.
always runner up
Yeah.
in relationships and everything. I'm always second. I never get first. I never win. And that's what reminded me of that moment is because you're talking about winning. And what does that mean? Right. And I didn't win that pageant, but I did win in life because I finally let go of the first runner up mindset in my life. So I did win, but I didn't win the pageant title. I won something so much better, which was an upgrade in my mindset to understand the world is not against you. Everything that's happening is happening for you. At
Hmm.
least you know God your Father is for you,
Hmm.
and He will work it all to your good, right? Romans 8:28. But I remember thinking, that just that topic of winning, what we think we're supposed to be doing, what we think we're supposed to achieve, all the pressure we put on ourselves, when we compare ourselves to other people, and we're like, well, they're fill in the blank, and when we add more pressure onto ourselves and we create this standard, whether we realize it or not, and we're like, are we matching up? Am I doing good? Am I in the game? Am I winning? And we realize it looks different for each person, but also the greatest wins are not tangible,
Right.
right? So, no, I love that. Okay. One thing I want to definitely get back to is that idea of a 4-hour work day, because that sounds super dreamy, but also impossible. So, how do you help moms and entrepreneurs in general get to that, Frank? What does that mean?
So it means that we have to take a harsh look at what we're saying yes to and what we're saying no to and what's on your plate. Everything is not important. Everything is not urgent, no matter what lies you want to tell yourself. Okay, let's be real. None of all of not all of that makes the top of the list. And so in order to be able to fit, I know for myself, like a 4-hour day, like that came up for me in 2020 because as when the world shut down overnight, like many other people, I had to become full-time educator to the kids. My daughter was in first grade, my son was in kindergarten. And I know that's a young age and not like learning too much, but I took that job very seriously. And I was like, they will eventually go back to school and I will be damned if my kids were behind. Like, absolutely not. And so it was like overnight, that was my job. And so that was where my priority was. But at the same time, I knew if I give up now or stop doing what I'm doing, I will lose all momentum. I will completely like just set myself back years again and have to start over, which I really didn't want to do. And so I had to take a look. I sat in my office one day and I wrote down everything I was responsible for, everything that I had to do. And it was very overwhelming. And I said, okay, well, this is not helping. How can I make this less overwhelming for myself? Because stuff still has to get done. And so I started noticing that fell in the same type of category. And so I created like buckets. And so I'm still a paper planner person. I do use my Google Calendar just because I need to have both, but I'm very much a paper planner person. And so I took all of the things, I came up with my 6 categories, my 6 buckets, and put all the things under that. And I was like, now this I can manage. Now, looking at all of these things and the amount of time I had each day to put into my business, I knew that I had 4 hours a day at that time, not including the weekends. But during the week, I had 4 hours, like an hour before the kids got up. I would meal prep so the lunch was easy so I could work while they're evening lunch, and then like an hour or two in the evening. And so there was a little bit of sacrifice, but I spent all day with the kids. So I was okay with like needing that little bit of break at nighttime. And so I would then start to add in of what I have on my plate, of what I am responsible for, where does that fall on my calendar? And then I color coded it. And so I could track what I was doing and how I was spending my time. Because again, sometimes we get busy, and if we're not stopping to look back at how we spent our time, I could have several weeks of busy and I feel good, but I'm not productive and business is not coming in. And so it was just forcing myself to sit down and figure out, what am I responsible for? Who am I responsible for? How does this all look and fit? And simplify it enough to get it done in 4 hours a day. And it was what I learned, which was surprising to me, was because I knew I only had that time, I was in a flow state when I knew that my time was up. I was like, okay, it's my time to go. Here is specifically what I'm doing with this time, right? Because it wasn't enough to say, well, tomorrow at 6 a.m, I'm lead generating or whatever, right? I needed to write specifically what I was doing in that hour, because I would show up at that hour and think about, well, what do I do now? And that spent 30 minutes thinking about it, and I didn't maximize my time. And so I would be very, very specific about what it was that I was doing, what I was going to be tracking, right? So I can measure the outcome of what I was putting into it. But it was very specific, very simple. And I learned that less is more, right? The less things that I have on my plate, the better quality work I was putting out there and the better quality customers I was getting at the same time, because I was saying no to everything that just didn't matter, that didn't fit in that season, right? That we were talking about. And then I just let it go. And it just, I've carried that with me ever since. And it's been like the best for me.
Yeah, no, I love that. We really don't realize how busy we are. We don't realize how many things that we're doing. There's a lot of LinkedIn posts I've noticed that have talked about how the job that moms do, if you had to put it into actual job format, adds up to like 300 grand a year, how much we're all doing. Yeah. And it's like, well, that makes sense that wouldn't be too far off, except obviously we don't get paid for that. Right. We're choosing to be present. We're choosing to be mom. And one thing that you said stood out to me, and that was your flow state, because a lot of people, we're so inundated with all this information that tells us how we should do something and what we should be focusing on. And it's really hard to quiet the noise and
Mhm.
get back to the basics and get back to just being in that moment, being truly present. It's very, very hard,
Mhm.
especially if we have ambitious goals and we're looking to push for this quarter and push for that. And so, what would you say as just one tip for us to consider as busy moms in business who we do want to encourage that creative flow state more and just quiet the noise? What would you say as one tip for us to consider?
I would say the calendar is definitely first, right? I know what I'm doing every single day. None of my days catch me by surprise for the most part. Like, I can't help if something happens at school, or I can't help if something, but for the most part, I'm not reacting to the day. And so I think one trick that I've learned for myself is I'm plan, like I have the year planned. I know what my measures, my milestones are for the quarter. I know what I have to do for the month and how I have to show up for every single week. And so, like, for example, Sundays is when I plan the week. I'm meal prepping, I'm planning the week. I need to see where I'm at, where the kids have to be, making sure all that stuff's on my calendar. But Sundays I plan. And so I go to bed Saturdays knowing that I'm going to get up still at 6 a.m. to plan my day. And so just knowing that I'm doing certain things at a certain time, I'm tricking my mind to already be ready for that. Like, it sounds like a Jedi trick, but it's how I trick myself into, like, okay, you said you're going to do this. You've got to be self-accountable because you're a coach. Like, if you can't be accountable to yourself, girl, like, give it up, But it's like, be who you're supposed to be and do what you said you're going to do, and be a woman of your word, right? Even if it's just to yourself, and have your own integrity. But it's like mentally setting up yourself with knowing, tomorrow I'm doing this at this time. I'm going to be here. I have this amount of space open. So if I have appointments or a client I want to meet with or a connection I want to make, like, my calendar is not like back to back to back to back. I still have 4 hours of very productive, focused time, and I leave the afternoons open so that I can, my son has half days twice a month, and I like to go on appointments in the afternoon because I'm better focused in the morning. And so it's all about recognizing your energy too. And but it's I think the biggest thing, this is a long answer, is just mentally preparing yourself for what is happening the next day, and then getting up and then doing it, right? Not giving yourself the excuse, just like when people want to work out, right? set your clothes out in the morning, have your alarm set, make sure your space is ready. Like my office is ready for me to get up, come in, do what I got to do. And then I have the entire rest of the day with my family.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And that makes complete sense. What would you say for someone who tells you, I know you're saying I can build my own life and I can design my own business, but I don't think it's true. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough experience. I'm too busy as a mom. I'm overwhelmed already. Designing my business and my life sounds wonderful, but it's really not true. You can't do that these days. We have to eat. What would you say to that mom?
Sorry, writing myself a note I don't want to forget. So I'm going to share something that I hope comes out well, and I hope people understand what I'm coming from. But I had my kids back to back. And after I had my son, I worked for retail. I was in retail management. And because I stepped down from my full time position, they did not want to pay for maternity leave for when I was out with my son. And I was like, okay, bet. So we're going to play that game. We're not playing that game. And so 2 weeks before I was due, I put my 2 weeks notice in. I talked to my spouse and I said, listen, I don't want to be in a position where I'm going to be forced to pick my family or my job. Right. I was already like miserable and it was crazy. I mean, I enjoy the place, but it was just a lot of pressure, especially the position that I held. And so I was gracious enough for him to hold on the fort so I can take some time off. And I was able to, in that first year, spend that time with my kids, be there 24/7 with them. But there was a point where I literally said to myself, listen, I am so grateful, God, I really am grateful for this. I said, but this is not my only purpose. I cannot just be a mom. Like this is who I was before I had kids, right? Like when I had the kids, I didn't expect having like an identity crisis. Like I feel like women don't talk about that enough when you have kids, like how much, like I was trying so hard to be the Melissa I was before I was a mom and she was gone, and nobody told me that was going to happen. And so I was freaking out and I just wanted to find me again. And so I share that to say, if you have time, everything that you shared, I have also thought, right? My limiting beliefs are I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. No one's going to listen to me. Like, what do I know? Like, all of those things always happen. The imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud. But I go back to that little girl, right? Like, what did she want when she was a kid? What was she thinking about when she thought about opening up her own business? Like, who is Melissa, right? So I would encourage women to go back to that woman that you were, listen to the little fire and flame still lit up inside you and relight it, reignite it, or put some stuff on it and make it go crazy. And then the other thing I do, so I go back to like little girl version of Melissa. And this other activity that I do, some might find it a little bit morbid, but it definitely just helps me in tough times, is I will look at Melissa on her deathbed. And now I envision her being very old, so I hope to live a very long life. But I mentally will take myself there and ask her, like, what would you be proud of about this decision I'm about to make in my life right now? What would you regret about the decision I'm going to make right now? Like, and I try to look, because I don't ever want to be in that place where I look back and I have regrets, right? Like the opportunity came and you missed your shot. Like, why? Because you were scared, because you didn't think you were good enough. Like, none of that matters. But how you show up and how you live your life does. And if you were blessed enough to wake up today, you have purpose still left to be had on this earth. And it's your job to see it through. That is our job on this earth, is to fulfill our purpose and what blessings we were given, the hearts that we have, and honor that. Like, that's why we're here, and I believe that. And so I go to the extremes of little girl Melissa and like deathbed Melissa. What would she want me to do at this time? Like, what would she be, anyway. So I do those two things.
No, I think too, just I love that. And I think, like you were saying, it's our duty. Like, we have our purpose. We're the only ones who can fulfill it. No one else can do that for us, and no one can make us. And if we don't do that, it's sadder than just, oh, we didn't reach our potential. There are people that didn't get help. There are people that didn't get to see God's light through us, which was what we were created to do. So it's like, I guess when we get into those moments where we are thinking, we have the imposter syndrome and we're thinking, no, I don't deserve this, or I could never do that, or no one's going to listen to me. We have to stop looking at us because it's bigger than us,
It
right?
is.
And that's what you're saying. I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, last question. What is something that you feel the Spirit has put on your heart to share with moms for the purpose of this podcast? And It can be anything, it could be something you're learning in this season of your life, just to give you some ideas. But what is one message or truth or process, anything that you can think of that comes to mind for something that you feel like you should share for the purpose of this episode?
So I would share that similar to what I was feeling last year, like I felt like I was so behind in life and what I was supposed to be doing because I'm like, I should be doing this at this age. And so first I would say stop shitting yourself, And I just truly believe that we're never behind. We are where we're supposed to be right now. And if there's ever anything that you're not happy about or there's something that's yearning inside of you, again, listen to that voice, right? You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have all of the answers. You have to have the desire in your heart to go on a mission that you have for your life and then just take one step every day. Like no one's judging your step. No one's saying, well, you didn't take a big enough step today. It's taking one forward step every day to fulfilling who you are and what you wanted to be and what you wanted to accomplish and the legacy that you want to leave behind. But I truly believe in God's timing. So whether I feel like I have made it or not, it doesn't matter. I just trust that I am where I'm supposed to be. I honor that. I try to give this version the most respect. And there's just more fun to be had. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know other people may have the answers. And so it has given me confidence in asking for help, which I know is something for us moms is really hard to do. But as I got older and as my kids have gotten older, it's easier to ask, for help. But just trust in your abilities. We're never going to have it figured out, but we have the ability to figure it out. We have the ability to ask for help. And that's all you need. Really, it's all you need.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And for those of you who are interested in connecting with Melissa, we have her links below. So reach out, connect, especially if you're interested in coaching and you might be in a transition period in your life and you're like, I need to talk to someone. Highly recommend you reach out and just receive from Melissa and see how she can help and support you because that's what we're here for. So, Melissa, thank you again for just being here on our episode. And for those of you listening with us today, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram at Mompreneurs Making Moves. And you can watch this full interview on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. And again, connect, reach out, because if you don't do anything else, we were here on this earth to build relationships and to help each other. So, just reach out, say hi. We will say hi back.
Yeah, you're never alone.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yes. You know what? That's actually usually how I end in the podcast. I'll say, share with any mompreneur friends if you think of someone who needs this episode and keep showing up, keep making moves. Don't forget to take care of yourself too. And yes, just like Melissa said, you're never alone. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll see y'all in the comments.